Logic, this cover is dope, dude, I can't lie, but come on, dude, it is clearly missing a very important person on this motherfucker, and his name is Waldo. What's going on, everybody? It's the Granddad of Granddad, Woolly, and you are here again for another edition of Woolly Reviews Hip Hop Data. We got an album review today. We're gonna talk about the brand new album that just fucking dropped from a motherfucker from Maryland who been making crazy noise for the past few years. He got a rapid fire flow. He be doing the conceptual albums, and he's even known to be a gamer, which is cool because I'm a gamer too. Gaming is life. Pick up sticks and get that work if you want to, motherfucker. This nigga's back. He dropped his new shit. He ain't leave nobody out. Talking about the new album from Logic entitled Everybody. Now, for those who don't know, like I said, Logic is a young rapper out of Maryland. He came on the scene a few years ago with his Young Sinatra mixtapes, doing big things. Then he signed with Def Jam, dropped his debut Under Pressure, which was really good. And then he followed that up with The Incredible True Story, which had a really promising concept, but I just don't think it was executed that well, which made it kind of fall down a little bit for me. And then he followed it up with Bobby Tarantino, which I did review, and I really wasn't too keen on that one because he just sounded a lot like Kendrick and Drake at times, and just the songs just weren't all that to me. But I do respect Logic from a talent standpoint. The dude can rap his ass off. He's got a crazy flow. He's got good lyrics. He knows how to write a song, but I just feel like he hasn't found himself just yet. And when it comes to his concepts, he really doesn't flesh them out as well as I think he should. But he's got a new album, hearing a lot of things about this shit. So let's see if Logic has really locked down all those issues on everybody and gave everybody something that we wanted to hear, or let's see if he's just let everybody down and we just gonna be like, God damn it, Logic, what the fuck? Like, use your logic and do what we tell you to fucking do and shit'll go right. Let's talk about the shit. All right, y'all, so we're gonna tweak this review a little bit because I really do want to focus mostly on the concept of this album, because it's just some things that I really want to just lay out and flesh out and talk about more so than anything else, because I feel like that's really the focal point and the main thing about this album. But as far as the production standpoint goes, I think that the production on here is overall very solid. The beats are very well layered, nice instrumentation, a lot of good sounds put on here, but the beats still didn't really wow me. Like, Logic has a really decent ear for beats. He knows how to pick a good beat that'll complement his flow, but I feel like the production on here is just more so what we know Logic would go for, but it doesn't wow me. But there are some beats on here that I really did like, that did kind of grab me. Like the beat on Everybody, I think was dope. I also like the throwback feel of the beat on America. That's really, really dope. But for the most part, no beats really jumped out at me, but they're not whack at the same time. They're just really solid beats, but they aren't anything that made me go, oh my God, I'm losing my fucking mind, Logic, what have you done to me? And it's more like, okay, that's a cool beat. I can hear Logic on that. Okay, do what you gotta do, Logic, handle your business. And when it comes to who he actually got to produce on this album, it's not surprising who he got. He got, of course, his longtime producer, Six, who always been doing beats on his albums. He's also got Bobby Campbell, Seasick, Deets, DJ Khalil. Logic does some production himself. No ID, of course. Postman, without the O's, Vontae Thomas, and Wallace Lane. So they all come through, and like I said, they give Logic a very solid, very accessible sound that he really compliments and really sounds good over. But the beats, like I said, just did not wow me, and there weren't many beats that really stuck out and really just struck a chord with me overall. But there aren't any beats on here that I say these are fucking terrible, it's super whack, turn that shit off. It's just okay, it's cool, it's dope, it works for Logic, and that's what it is. And when it comes to features on this album, Logic has quite a few features on here, ranging from so many different individuals, and it really just shows that he really has a sort of concept going with this and how he utilizes his features. So he's got Killer Mike on here, Ansel Elgort. If I fuck up names, you know how I do. He's also got Black Thought on here, which is dope. Chuck D's on here, Big Limbo, No ID's on here, Juicy J. Who else is on fucking here? Alicia Cara, Khalid or Khalid, I don't know, one or the other. Lucy Rose, Damian Lamar Hudson, and then Neil deGrasse Tyson. So those are all the features on here, and most of them are doing either singing or dialogue. Even the rappers on here aren't even rapping. Like Killer Mike isn't rapping, he just does sort of like a speech that's very impassioned, but there's no verse from him. Juicy J raps too, but he's more of ad-libbing or sort of like back and forthing with Logic, but not really giving like a solid verse, but it's really kind of just like them just back and forth and just complimenting one another. But I did forget to mention that J. Cole is on this album at the tail end. He's not listed or credited, but he actually has like this verse at the very, very very end of the album, which is really cool because he's sort of like giving Logic advice about the whole concept and how Logic feels during this album, which I'll get to. But the thing about it is, it sounds like J. Cole recorded this shit on a fucking handheld tape recorder or on the phone real low key. So it was hard for me to even think that that was J. Cole at first. I didn't know who the fuck that was. I had to really just listen to it and really pick up, oh, that's fucking Cole. So those are what's going on with the features. They're overall really solid. They do what they're supposed to do. I didn't have any problems with them, but some of them, well, I did have a problem with the fact that Killer Mike didn't rap, and also that the fact that Juicy J sort of didn't give his own rap too. And he also had a slob on my knob comment at the end, which I really think he shouldn't have. I mean, I know why he did it because of the whole 3-6 and whatnot, but I just think it was just out of nowhere and really didn't need to be there. But whatever, it is what it is. But that's what I think about the features. Now let's get into Logic. Now with Logic, you know what Logic does. He has a rapid fire flow. He's got good lyricism. He even does a little bit of singing. He can kind of carry a tune, which really isn't bad. Logic kind of has all the essential tools. The thing about Logic though is that when it comes to him executing a concept or really just going with something, he doesn't execute it 100% or fully, or he sort of either plays it safe or he comes off sort of like corny. And that's what it is with this album. He's flowing his ass off. He's got the hooks, he's got everything like that, but it's just the concept and what his subject matter is just really doesn't sit with you well. First off, the album itself is over an hour long, and Logic, the album is called Everybody, but he really just focuses on himself and what he deals with as being biracial, half black, half white, and what goes on with them. He does sort of touch on other issues or sort of grazes them in a way when it comes to like what's going on in America with other types of racism or religion or politics or even mental health. He kind of just skims the surface of those things or talks about them more on a personal side or how he feels about the situation. But with that comes a flaw because he sort of talks about the same topics in several songs, like on Everybody and Take It Back and Black Spider-Man. He's talking about how he's biracial and how he pretty much isn't accepted by his black side or his white side and how he just deals with that. And we get that, we understand it, but he sort of kind of like hits us over the head with it way too many times. It's a subject that he could have taken care of in 1-2 songs max, but he kind of spreads it out all over this album in 1 hour long. He also has these very long speaking parts that he has at the end of several songs like Anxiety and Take It Back, just to name a few, and he really just goes with these long speeches about just his personal life and what he goes through with that, which I kind of respect because he's really just giving a piece of his life and he's really just telling his story, but it makes the song so long and drawn out at times that after you hear it the first time, you kind of don't want to hear it again. You're gonna just hit that skip button and it really just bogs down the whole theme and concept of the album in a way. And that's the thing, the concept of this album. The album is called Everybody, and there's also this little interlude or this little like skit that goes on where there's this dude called Adam in the beginning. He ends up dying. He ends up in this place called the waiting room where he meets God, and he's actually waiting to be reincarnated or reborn as somebody else. And that's because Adam is actually everybody. He is the one person who has lived every life before him, at the present, and will live. He's just the same motherfucker who keeps getting reborn because he has to live the life of everybody from every race and gender and sexual orientation and religion and whatnot, so he can know what it's like to live their life from that perspective, so ultimately he can become God himself. And that's pretty much the whole central concept or theme of what Logic is trying to get you to grasp in this album, which is cool, but when it comes to the actual songs, Logic isn't really going that deep with this. He's really just sticking to his own personal experiences or how he feels about his own battles with his race or his thoughts on society and whatever it is. He's not really going the full spectrum, which I feel like he missed a huge opportunity, especially because this album is called Everybody and the album should be about fucking everybody, and it's not, which made me think of an even better or a more, I guess, plausible concept that Logic should have went with. So I'm not telling Logic how to do his shit. It doesn't matter at this point because he's already put the fucking album out. But instead of him just sort of like throwing in this 4-minute skit called The Waiting Room that explains everything, he should have took that skit and had it spread it out across the entire album and really took that to another level. So basically what I'm saying is with this album, it should have started off with Adam dying. Forget the Hallelujah intro, that's not even necessary. Starts off with Adam dying, then it can go into the song Everybody just because it's the title track. And then it can go back into the waiting room skit, but it's also sectioned off into different parts. Now, if you remember in that skit, God, who's played by Neil deGrasse Tyson, says, okay, you're about to be reborn or reincarnated as this white dude from the 1700s. You have 40,000 acres and you own slaves. And Adam is a black dude, so he has a problem with that. But what should have happened in this album is that should have been a song. It should have went straight into a song where he is actually born and reincarnated as this dude, and he is talking from the perspective of this white dude who has all this land and all these slaves in this time period, and give that perspective of life. Now, here's the thing about the concept. Once that happens in that song, that dude should die. And guess what? Go back to the waiting room, and now he's gonna be reborn. But this time, he can be reborn as a slave on that same plantation. But also think about this if you remember the skit, because Adam had a problem with owning slaves in his next life. God was like, well, don't be too upset because your son is going to eventually free those slaves. So when Adam is reborn in his next life as a slave, he goes back on that same plantation, but the son is now running it and he eventually frees the slaves. Now that dude has to live as a free slave in the era of Jim Crow and the racism and the KKK and just living life and just now figuring out how America will now treat him as a free slave or a free black man. But if you know history, they weren't treated too good. And eventually that dude also dies and gets reincarnated as somebody else. And the point of this album will be that he continually dies and gets reincarnated as a different person of a different whatever and goes through different scenarios. It goes through race, religion, gender, sexual orientation. You can throw in the mental health situations with the anxiety and the suicide and whatnot because it can play into that as well. And the point of that is in the end, around the tail end of the album, the last, I say 3 songs, there's one more rebirth. And that rebirth is Logic himself. And then that is when Logic can talk about all these issues that he's talking about through this entire album. He can compact that into 3 songs, talk about everything, because if you think about it conceptually, in his past lives, even though he might not remember it, he's lived all these situations and scenarios. So now he has the ability and the right to talk about these, whether he's conscious of it or not, because in his past life, he has lived these things and he has actually been everybody to talk about everybody. If Logic did that shit, this would have been one of the best conceptual albums of the year if he could execute it that well. That's how I would have went about this album. Obviously, he didn't go that route. I don't know if he thought about that or if he didn't think about that, but I'm just saying, let me know what y'all think about that concept. And if Logic did it that way, would you have enjoyed the album better, or do you think he did it the right way doing it this way? I don't know, y'all. I think that concept would have been fucking perfect for this shit. But nevertheless, that shit didn't fucking happen, and this is what we got, and that's what it really draws this album back from me, is that I just don't think Logic executed this concept to its fullest potential. Also, he just doesn't come off as really as strong as he should with these subjects and whatnot. I think he kind of goes safe. He comes off kind of corny at times, and it just really doesn't resonate. I think it should resonate a lot more than it did, and that's what really just irks me about this album, because Logic is a very talented dude. I want him to have an amazing album. I know he has it in him. He has the talent. He has the skill set. He has the mindset. He just has to apply all those things and have all the stars align and give us a grade A conceptual piece. And if he can't pull that shit off, he needs to stop with the concept albums and just give us a really dope fucking hip-hop album. And seeing as from this album it states that his next album is going to be his final album, he got to give us a home run. He's got to go out of the park and just make that shit fucking go into the stratosphere, because it's got to be fucking dope, because he's again fell short with the concept. But I will say he's finally taken care of the thing where he sounds like other rappers. He does not sound like that on this album. He sounds like Logic. I felt like Logic was giving me him and not just a knockoff of somebody else who I've heard, which I really am glad he's finally taken care of that, which is really dope. And when it comes to my top 5 tracks, y'all, it was hard because I really didn't love a lot of these songs on here, and some were just cool, some were good, but I did come up with 5 of my, I guess, top 5, but I mean, it's not a confident top 5, but I'll give it to you. So it's Everybody, and then it's America, and then it's Most Definitely, and then Suicide Hotline, or 1-800-273-8255, and then Anxiety. And that's it. And I'll just go a quick skim. So I like Everybody because it's one of my favorite beats. I love the vibe of it. I love the energy of it. And it's him pretty much giving that first taste of what he's really want to talk about this album with his own issues. And then when it goes to America, I love the throwback feel of this beat. The features on here are dope. Black Thought's verse is dope. Chuck D's verse is dope. No ID's verse is dope. And Logic has some dope content on here. He even addresses Kanye West saying like, yo, I idolize you, but I can't fuck with you for fucking with Donald Trump. That's not cool, Kanye. You need to chill with that shit. On the track, most definitely, he has this desire to just be rich and wealthy because he ain't shit. He gotta work 2 fucking jobs and do the rap shit on the side, hoping that he's gonna make it. Obviously, you fucking made it, nigga. But he just talks about all that scenario and situation. And with the Suicide Hotline song, I really do appreciate the sentiment, even though I do think he could have went deeper with it. But I think the instrumentation on here is dope. I think his meaning and his heart was in the right place with this track. And it's still one of the strongest tracks on here, even though the song, as far as the hook is concerned, I think could have been a little bit better. Overall, it's an okay song, and it's got some good vocals from Alicia Cara. I like her vocals on here. And also on Khaled, I like what he did on here as well. And the same thing with Anxiety. I like that song because it's just Logic being really personal with himself and talking about anxiety. I personally know people who have anxiety as well as who have dealt with suicide. So with these 2 songs, like I said, I can connect with them because I personally know people who have dealt with these situations, and what Logic is saying is very true. But I also think that he should have just went a little bit more deeper with these subjects. And on Anxiety, what pulls it back is that he gave us a 3-minute just speech about what he dealt with his anxiety, how he ended up finding out he had anxiety. I really wish he would have just put that in verse form rather than just speaking about it. Maybe he wanted to speak from the heart, but it wouldn't have made the song just so drawn out and long if he would have did that. But it still is, I guess, one of my favorites. But overall, y'all, I think this album is solid, but I just know it could have been a lot better if the concept was played off better and if the songs were just put together better and he just didn't hit the same subjects across a 1-hour album several fucking times. And that's what really draws down this album to me and really just doesn't make it as memorable as I think it should have or it could have been. And I just think he needs to either steer away from the concept albums or hone in and lock in on it a lot better and give us something really fucking great. But for the most part, this was a cool album. Didn't wow me. I didn't hate it, but I did not love it, and I wish I would have got more out of it. Like the concept I came up with, if he would have did that shit, this would have been an amazing fucking album on a conceptual standpoint. And I also think he would have been able to go a lot deeper, a lot more serious, and really just hit these points home a lot harder if he did it that way. So my final verdict, I'm not saying that Logic Everybody is an overall decent album that could have been a lot better if the concept was pegged down just a little bit better. All I'm saying is that production on here is cool, nothing really wowed me. Logic's doing what he usually does, flowing his ass off. Good content, even though he just stretches it out too much across an hour. And the concept on here I think was good, but also I just think he missed an opportunity to really have a really great fucking amazing concept with this Everybody theme that I really think he just missed out on. And that's what really just drawed it down to me. But it isn't an album that I absolutely hate, but it's also an album that I don't think I'm gonna go back to after listening to this. So all I gotta say is that for me, Logic Everybody is not Granddad approved, but I will give it a Granddad recommended. So check it out. If you're a Logic fan, you're gonna like this project. If you're not a Logic fan, you might not want to stick with this album too long. You may get a couple songs here and there that you'll like, but overall, from a conceptual standpoint, I think it falters. From a song standpoint, it's not too many strong songs on here, but there aren't any terrible songs on here as well to me personally, but I do think Logic could have done better once again, like I said, in his last project. But I got nothing more to say. Logic, Everybody, is Granddad recommended, so go check out the shit right fucking now. Flip it. Alright, y'all, that's gonna do it for today's video. Make sure you give me a thumbs up and drop a comment. Tell me what you think of Logic Everybody if you've heard it. If you have not heard it, like I said, it's a cool album, decent, but it could have been a lot fucking better if Logic would have just pulled off this concept a lot fucking better. But it's got some decent songs on here, and his heart's in the right place with a lot of the subject matter, and it's definitely worth checking out if you're a Logic fan. If you're not, you'll still get something out of here, but you might not end up going back to it. As you can see, shit looks fucking different, but previous videos on the side, some fucking where, I don't know where yet because this is the first time I'm doing it, but we'll figure it out, as well as my latest single. Check that out, show us some love, and also subscribe, Twitter, Facebook, SoundCloud, Instagram, all that shit's there, Indie Spotlight. You want your shit spotlighted, info below, and I got nothing more to say. So until next time I take my leave, Granddaughter, Logic, Everybody. Album ain't about everybody. It's just mostly about you, and it's cool, but it could have been better. That concept that I came up with, shit would have been fire though. But hey, you did what you did. Can't do nothing about it now. I'm out of here.